Welcome to the onslaught of Fire King, Centurion, and everybody playing for a quarter-century Christia. Welcome to the breakdown for this Kong's Cards tournament. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Remember, check out our friends at Kong's Cards. Use discount code MCO40 and save on your purchase. They do all these tournaments all the time, all right? They give people the chance to get some good prizes, and that's what you want to see. So your top 16 breakdown out of this event is actually quite an interesting tale because Tier was our highest represented deck here, which actually tells an interesting story about the format. I didn't expect to see Tier doing so well in top 16. None made it into top 8, but we'll talk about that here in a second. We had two Rescue Ace decks making top 16. None of these made it into top 8. You heard me say that right. None of them made it in to top 8, which is crazy. We also had two Centurion decks present in the top cut of this event, which actually was a pretty good showing, but none of those made it in to top 8 either. We also had two Fire King versions of the power deck running around, two Purely Duelist. Ooh, the Evil Cat deck doing good out here. We had two Dragon Link. Okay, I see you. We also had two Vanquish Soul. Excuse me, we had one Vanquish Soul. We had a Synchron pile. Yes, that's a Synchro Turbo deck. Well, that's interesting. And we also had a Phantom Knight pile performing as well. Did you get all that? Because that's a lot of interesting meta. Now your top 8 here. We had two Fire King versions running around in the meta. Now for 100 plus players participating out here, to see that Fire King was sitting at the top of the food chain, no, it actually didn't win the event. It just made it into the top cut. We had two Purely decks. Once again, both of those Purely Duelist carrying on over into the top cut here, kind of showing that, hey, this deck is pretty strong and that you do need to be fully aware of what this can do. We also had two Dragon Link. All right, now what's very interesting about this is one of them is a Buster Blader variant, and that's not something that you tend to see a lot of out here. Honestly, I really like the Buster Blader variant. It actually kind of showcases some pretty cool ideas. And we also had Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul breaking through the mold here, kind of getting the chance to push to the top of the meta, which I think is actually incredibly good to see. And of course, our last deck in the top 8, our Synchro pile manages to make its way into top 10. Now, if you're like, is this something crazy? No, it's pretty standard, honestly. You're just ripping cards away from your opponent's hand. I think a lot of people forget that the Synchro deck has the ability to be extremely toxic. Yeah, just like my cough there, where you're ripping cards away from your opponent's hand. You're like, oh, yes, give me Omega Trishula. Yeah, you know how unfun those interactions can be. Let's pass on over to those deck lists. All right, so our winning deck list here is actually probably one of the most basic Purely decks I've had the chance to see. I mean, this just proves like Fenrir's, maximizing on our little friends here. 41 cards with the one leap, and then siding in the shifters. This accomplishes literally everything that you kind of want it to, and it's extremely good just to showcase how strong the cat deck actually can be for the meta. So congratulations to winning. I like this. Next up here we have our Vanquish Soul variant. Hey, look, shifters are back. Playing triple Curry Kara in here as well. Okay, so they wanted to be able to just smash through the meta. We're also only playing one Kaiser Varius. Well, that's a little bit different. I'm so used to seeing two in most builds. So very interesting to see differences in opinions. Two Pot of Prosperities for filtering. That's definitely up there. And then we're maximizing on Geolong in here as well. Okay, much different. Next up is our Synchro pile, claiming all the way in to third, or top 4 actually. And there's the Synchro Rumble for the Revive. Of course, you're very used to this. Here's the Diabell Star package to bring out the Jet Synchrons, so you can start getting into the absolute mad value that is your Synchro board. And then all you got to do is just see the Junk Speeder, and you're off to the races. Honestly, this deck was pretty much good at setting up the Negate here and then rolling out the Junk Speeder, and it was pretty free to do whatever it wanted to. Next up here, we have our Dragon Link Buster Blader deck. I think a lot of people saw this coming. Basically, you can soft Buster Lock your opponent with the power of the Buster Dragon and the Buster Blader by converting everything into a Dragon-type monster. Plus, I mean, let's call it what it is. You have the consistent backing of the rest of the Dragon Link package, making this deck into an absolute monster. I know a lot of people don't really consider this version to like be super playable, but maybe it's time that we reconsider this. Next up here, we had our first Fire King deck. Now, this looks incredibly standard, honestly, for what you would expect. You know, the Fire King stuff, also with enemy controllers here, so you can call over onto your field any of the problem cards that your opponent might have necessarily set up. And, you know, I mean, heck, man, if Ponix is going to keep coming back essentially every turn, I might as well take advantage of the free little bird, right? Of course, we get the chance to play some skill drains down here as well. Next up here, we have some more Fire Kings. Do keep in mind the little bit of differences here. Still are maximizing on Super Polys. This build is playing one circle of the Fire Kings. Not a lot of versions of this deck really want to try to play this. I think that it's a cute little tech choice at the end of the day, but for most of what the Fire King deck is trying to do, this might be a little bit too slow. And it really just depends. Once again, we're a skill drain deck. Alright, next up here we have our other purely version. I see that we are just playing double Fenrir. So basically the main difference between the winning list and this just kind of looks like it might have been, you know, one Fenrir. 41 cards versus 40. Okay, of course, every purely deck plays something limited at this point in time. You just want to make sure that, you know, you can genuinely punish your opponent as you need to. Looking at the rest of this, though, I don't see anything. There's nothing really too else needed for this. And our last top 8 version is our other Dragon Link deck. Man, does this take you back to standard or standard? Because we are playing the triple black metal. This build is actually playing triple Ghost Ogre, which is actually a pretty interesting tech choice out here, especially if they're anticipating more Centurion stuff. Getting the chance to blow up, you know, when they're in their crystal state, actually can win you a game, which is pretty good. I also see that, yes, we are playing the Atum down here as well. Now it's time to go into top 16. Our first version of top 16 was barely missing the top cut slot. Is Rescue Ace. Still playing double Diabellstar. There's the double enemy controllers. Want to make sure that, you know, the power that we're getting with this card, so incredibly strong. There's the Pot of Prosperities for as much filtering options as we could want. Double Turbulence. I don't really see anything too out of ordinary with this. Like I said, a lot of these Rescue Ace variants feel very standardized. Next up here, wow, 10th place. Okay, I see you. Come a long way out here. I do see that we are playing the Pozimo down here as well. It was either this or the Warrior package ended up being more of the supremely the big verdict that a lot of people really wanted to explore in terms of options, but I think that the Pozimo, the little inclusion of the things that you could do with this card, actually is really good. I don't have anything to talk about in the main deck. All looks standard again. Next up is our high tier. How are you? So we are maximizing our, double Herald. Well, a lot of these builds I feel like want to play one of these anymore. So we are playing the Scatter Shot for the ping. Full package, danger stuff. Only one Fenrir. You know, that feels weird, but I mean, it's just going to toggle on into the tier elements cached here anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then, of course, we're citing some Spellbounds. Okay, yeah. Everything here checks out. I don't see anything really too crazy for this. Next up here, we have our first Centurion deck that we're going to see this video. Yes, we are playing a Regulus, because 2 level 8s, because we are playing the Horus package, and actually hard make champion Sargass. The little things out here in the meta that you can get away with that are absolutely hilarious, that your opponent's just going to be like, what do you want me to do about that? Well, you know, it works out. Definitely, I like what this is going to evolve into. Next up here, we have our Phantom Knight Horus pile here. Now, basically, this is pretty much what you've heard on the rumor mill. I mean, you're toggling through the Horus package to have discard outlets for all of your Phantom Knights, and then once they're in the graveyard, well, hey, you're kind of off to the races, you know. It just takes one discard outlet to kind of get the deck started in the right direction. And once you kind of establish and you're good to go with that, should have no problem for setting up the combo lines. Next up is more Centurion. Now, this build actually is playing what actually looks like a super heavy package. I figured that we'd go more towards like the Horus end of things. Actually, I do think that the Horus package is probably the best way to go with this deck. The package inclusion of this to set up some pendulum scales is kind of cute, but I don't like the idea of it. You know, it just feels kind of bulky. Next up here, we have some more tier. Yup, and there is our Horus package in full sight. Obviously, you're going down some sort of version of this deck. Either you're going to be playing the Horus package, or you're going to steer towards more of this side of things. 43 cards, by the way. I feel like a little bit bulky, but I think it all works out. You're not really trying to do too crazy plays. And of course, since we're playing Super Poly, the two jokers of the format. And our last list here is traditional tier. Okay, so once again, that one Fenrir toggle on into these is fine. Triple King of the Swamp. Obviously, there's been a giant argument for whether Poly is worth it in the current format. I think it worked out for this event, so maybe I'd put a little bit more spotlight on it and give it some consideration to maybe sticking around and letting it have a little bit more time for us. So there's everything out of this event. Holy moly. What do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.